Hello and welcome to Reading with Mo. Today I am going to be sharing with you guys the reading plans that I have for the month of March. I have some, as normally usual for me, some very ambitious reading plans, but that's okay. I will start with the stack that I have here, physical books to share with you guys, and then we can go ahead and get into a few books that I have on my Libby app on my phone that I've checked out, mostly audiobooks. I think I have a couple of ebooks as well. So I've been trying to read like one or two books a month from my series shelf. So the one that I picked for the month of March is Dreadnation by Justina Ireland. I actually have read this book before, so it will be a reread for me, but I do own the sequel to this book, but it's been so long since I read this book that I definitely need to reread it before I go into the sequel, or else I'm going to be so confused and have no idea what's going on. This is a young adult duology, I believe. There's only two books in the series. If I'm remembering correctly, I believe this is like an alternative history young adult novel where it takes place during like the beginning part of America's history. It takes place in Gettysburg, Pennsylvania, and we're following our main character. Her name is Jane, and she was born 2 days before the dead began to walk the battlefields of Gettysburg, Pennsylvania. So I believe this one also was kind of in the either sci-fi or horror genre as well. So I actually checked out the audiobook for this from my library. I don't believe the audiobook is too long, so I'm gonna give this a listen so that hopefully in I can't remember what month it is now. Hopefully in April I will be able to read the second book, and the second one is called Deathless Divide. Also, I need to mention what I'm reading for March is a book that I'm continuing from February. So in February I started Wives and Daughters by Elizabeth Gaskell. This book is so long. It is almost 800 pages. So I'm currently at about page 400. So I'm halfway into this book. I'll definitely be finishing it in the month of March. I previously read by Elizabeth Gaskell North and South a couple of years ago, and I really enjoyed that book. So I have been enjoying my time with this one so far too. It is a classic, so sometimes I feel like those just take a little bit longer to get through, but as far as like readability and stuff, it's super easy to understand. And there were just times where I kind of put the book down for a few days and was like reading other stuff. So I'm not like super powering through this book, but I'm just making my way slowly through it, and it's definitely giving me what I was looking for a classic from Elizabeth Gaskell. I think I may enjoy North and South a little bit more, but I am really enjoying my time with the characters in this book as well. Our main character, her name is Molly, and her father is the town doctor. He is a widow, but he ends up getting remarried, so she ends up having the stepmother and a stepsister that come into her life, as well as other people we meet around their town that she has relationships with and stuff. So I'm really enjoying it, and I'll give you my full thoughts on it once I actually finish this. So as far as my bookshelf tour series that I'm doing, I know I'm a little bit behind for as far as I want to be on that. So hopefully during this month I'll be posting at least one or two of those shelf spotlight videos. And this month there is one shelf that I'm working on. It's the top left side of my shelves, so hopefully I will get that up for you guys sometimes during the month. I chose two books from that shelf, or no, actually chose 3 books from that shelf to include on my TBR for this month, so we can, you know, start getting that TBR down, my physical TBR at least. My Goodreads TBR I think is like over 500 books. I'm never getting that down. So these are the books that I chose from that shelf that I'm going to hopefully try and get to during this month. The first nonfiction book we have is Chernobyl Prayer by Svetlana Alexievich. This is a nonfiction history book published by Penguin Modern Classics, all about Chernobyl. It's described as a collage of oral testimony that turns into the psychobiography of a nation, not shown on any map. So we have this historical nonfiction I would like to get to, as well as The Color of Law by Richard Rothstein, a forgotten history of how our government segregated America. I have the audiobook for this one as well, so hopefully I will be able to listen to this one at some point during the month. And then the last one from that shelf is Bridget Jones' Diary by Helen Fielding. Now, I watched this movie, the movie adaptation Bridget Jones' Diary, I believe like years ago, so I thought it'd be fun since it's been so long since I've watch the movie. I don't really remember a lot of the plot, to read the book and then watch the movie again once I actually finish the book. I know Bridget Jones' Diary is definitely a book that is very well known. This book was originally published in the 90s, and I believe that you can correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe there's other books that follow the same character as well. So if I enjoy it, I can go ahead and pick up more books by Helen Fielding as well. This specific edition I have is published by Picador. It's their 40th anniversary of Picador. It's one of the books they chose to publish in that collection. What I remember from Bridget Jones' Diary is I believe it's kind of like a contemporary fiction novel, but I could be wrong. And we're following her, and she's, I think, in like her 30s, and we're following like her relationships with like romantic relationship, and looking at stuff with her family and I think her job and stuff. So yeah, I'll definitely let you guys know if this is for me or not. I'm not really sure if this is like a me book, but it's one kind of out of my usual comfort zone that I want to check out. The last two physical books I want to show you guys are kind of intimidating. So let's go with the lesser of the two first. So I had mentioned one of my goals this year was to read through all the Zora Neale Hurston books that I have currently on my shelves. The project was to read one a month, and so far I'm failing. Just straight up failing. I haven't read any of them yet. I had put Jonahs Gourdvine on my TBR in January to be the first one to kick it off, and I love Zora Neale Hurston's writing, and I had started it, but it's definitely a book you cannot just like power through. It's written mostly in dialect, so that does make it a little bit harder to get through at a quicker pace. And I wish there was an audiobook for this book, but when I was searching on Libby, they didn't have one, and I think I didn't even see one when I was looking online. So I will definitely be reading this one, but at this time I had picked this book up, I was reading another book that was also written in dialect, so it was just too much to be reading two at the same time. So I decided to wait on this one, so hopefully this month is the month for it. And then the last physical book that I have in my TBR, which is very intimidating to me, is The Count of Monte Cristo by Alexandre Dumas. I read The Black Tulip by this author recently, and I really enjoyed it. So I am even more excited to go into this book, but I am just so intimidated by it because it's so freaking long. This book is probably gonna be the longest book I ever read in my life. It's just over 1,200 pages. So while I'm planning on starting it this month, I am not gonna beat myself up if I don't finish it this month, because this is literally a brick. But I am going to be checking out the audiobook from my library for this book. I believe the audiobook is about 30 plus hours. So hopefully that will help me get through it in a little bit more reasonable amount of time. But hopefully I like the audiobooks. You know, sometimes audiobook narrations can be 50-50 if they're like cool or not. So hopefully I enjoy it, and that just helps me to bring overall more enjoyment to reading this book, and I really do hope I enjoy it. I have watched the movie adaptation, but I heard that they are very different, and it's been a while since I watched the adaptation, so I pretty much am going into this mostly fresh of mind, I think. Okay, so that's it for the physical books that I was going to try and get to. Now we can run through the books that I have currently checked out from my Libby app, or I'm about to check out. So most of these are books that are like new releases. I like to check out new releases from my library to save money, so I don't spend money on stuff that I end up not enjoying as much. So the first one I'm actually currently listening to is an audiobook by Veronica Roth called Conspirator. This one is super short. It's a super short novella. I'll probably finish it within today or tomorrow, honestly. It's like, I think only about 3 hours long. I'm about a third of the way into it so far, and I'm not sure how I'm feeling about it. If this was honestly like a full-length book, I think I would DNF it, and especially looking at the reviews too. It's not like being highly well received. Veronica Roth also wrote the Divergent series, if you guys are familiar with that very popular young adult dystopian series. So this is a adult book, I think. Although what I've listened to so far, I mean, it really could almost read young adult. In the vein of the whole dystopian Divergent series, this book I feel like is definitely could fall within that same genre. It is a dystopian novella. We are following a story that's taking place on the last city on Earth, and the planet is a wasteland. Without the archive where the genes of the dead are stored, humanity would end. We're kind of following the different political intrigue that is going on within this one family that is in power. So yeah, so far it's like okay. I don't feel like it's gonna be like a super high rating. I'm probably gonna give it 3 stars, but I am gonna finish listening to it. Then we have an ebook that I have checked out called A Darker Wilderness, Black Nature Writing from Soil to Stars by Erin Sharkey. And so this is a collection of personal and lyrical essays, and they are all in conversation with archival objects of Black history and memory. I haven't really read much, if any, nature writing, so this will be my first kind of dip into it and seeing if it's something I'm interested in reading more about. Then I have an audiobook for a nonfiction book. It's called All the Beauty in the World by Patrick Bringley. This author, he is I think he was like a former New York staffer who spent a decade working as a museum guard in the Metropolitan Museum of Art in New York City. So it'll be interesting reading and hearing about his experience doing that. It's pretty short for an audiobook. I think it's about like 6 hours. And then the other audiobook that I have as well is Bunny by Mona Awad. Now I know this is one of BookTube's darling books that I am definitely one of the last people to get around to reading. So I'm definitely going to give you my full thoughts on this one. This audiobook, I was on the wait list for a long time at my library, and it's probably one of the ones I'm going to be listening to next. I'm hoping that it does live up to the hype because I know that a lot of BookTube girlies on here love this book, so I hope that I can join that crowd and be one of the ones who really like it. And if I do, I will definitely be purchasing a physical copy to keep on my shelves. I don't really know too much about this book except that it takes place like at a university, and we're following this girl, I'm not really sure, who gets involved with this group of girls on campus who, I don't know if they're like a cult or club or what, but they all call each other Bunny. And then the last book that I know of like for sure I'm gonna get to, because I have the ebook currently checked out and it's also very short, is Hourglass by Kieran Goddard. This one I don't know too much about, but it is a short lyrical debut novel about love, loss, work, time, and the unquenchable desire for connection with others. This is written in verse and it's very short, so I feel like I'm gonna get through this very quickly. I have a few other audiobooks on hold through the library that I may or may not get to throughout the month, so I'm not going to mention those ones just in case I end up not checking them out and getting to them and be a waste of time to talk about them. But that is it for my March TBR. Very ambitious. I think there's something like 15 books I just shared with you guys, so we'll see if I get to all of them, but I do get to a lot, I would say, mainly because audiobooks really come through for me. Let me know what you guys are reading in the month of March, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Bye!